feel like I made myself very gold for this video and you can't even see it, and that upsets me. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing my most ambitious TBR to date. If you find yourself enjoying this video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out, and if you're new here and would like to see more of me, then please subscribe. To start things off, welcome to the first ever episode of Spell It Out. This is my new TBR game inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. I have wanted to make a TBR game for a very long time and I finally had this idea and I'm super excited about it. Full disclosure, this is an original idea in that I had the idea entirely by myself and I came up with all the gameplay myself. However, when I went to look, there are people who have already done this on YouTube. I didn't watch their videos because I didn't want to be influenced by their gameplay, but there are other people who've done Dungeons and Dragons inspired games. However, I think the beauty of D&D is that there are so many different facets of it that you could take that I feel like it's probably unlikely that I have the same kind of gameplay as them anyway, but just so that I don't get called out for copying people, this was my idea. I just realised that other people had the idea first. So we've got my TBR game. On top of that, June is the Make Your Myth Taker readathon, which I am super excited for, and it's also the Olympic Games, which I am super excited for. So we have two readathons and my TBR game, which essentially is like a readathon in itself, and I'm gonna die. But let's just get into the books that I'm reading. So I'm gonna start off with my Spell It Out TBR. So I think the game makes complete sense, but I'm going to try to explain it in as non-confusing a way as possible for those of you who are not inside my head. Basically, my character is a first level bard because I think that I could never play a bard, like roleplay a bard, in a way that the class is deserving of, so I'm gonna do it in this game where I don't really need to roleplay it. And with every TBR that I successfully complete, I will level up. I did toy around with the idea of coming up with statistics and skills and playing with hit points and things like that, but ultimately I just decided that that was too complicated, and the only thing that I'm really taking from my character, or the only part of my character that really affects the gameplay of the TBR game, is my spells. So as a first level bard, I know 2 cantrips and 4 first level spells. So what I've done is choose 2 cantrips and 4 first level spells, and I have made reading prompts based on those. The gameplay then is pretty simple. I roll 1d8 to determine how many books I read, and I roll 1d20, which gives me some kind of modifier to make the gameplay a little more interesting. I've done that in much the same way that a normal d20 would work, where if I roll a 1, it's like the worst thing imaginable. If I roll a 20, it's something that'll really help me on my path. And along the way we have varying challenges or kind of things that'll make it easier for me depending on what I roll. If absolutely none of that made sense to you, never fear, because I think as I actually start playing, it will all become a lot clearer. So I'm going to roll 1d8 to see how many books I need to read, and I'm going to have to read 5 books this month. Now I'm going to roll my d20 to see what my modifier is, and I've rolled 17. So 17 lines up with Timora, the goddess of good fortune and trickery, which means that I can swap out any book on my TBR for a mood read. So I am going to be running these TBRs as if I was doing a readathon, and the way that I normally do readathons is if I am really not enjoying a book, I will just DNF it and then pick up another book that also will fulfill that prompt. And that's basically how I'm going to do this as well. I'm going to declare my TBR at the beginning of every month, but I'm not super fussed if I don't follow that exact TBR super strictly, as long as at the end of the month I have completed all the prompts, even if it's with other books. However, this modifier allows me to completely throw one of my prompts out the window if I feel so inclined and pick up a mood read instead. Because I'm going to be doing 2 readathons in addition to my TBR game this month, it I think will be really helpful if I'm starting to feel really bogged down by the stuff that I kind of have to read, then at least I can swap it out for a fun read. So really glad that I got this one. And onto the books that I have to read. First up is Dancing Lights, Read a Book with a Shiny Cover. I'm gonna say Where I'm Calling From by Raymond Carver. This is a short story collection that I put into my 5-star predictions video. Yeah, I think I'll really enjoy this one, and it is very, very shiny. Next is Animal Friendship, Read a Book that features animals. So for this I think I'm gonna go with Forever by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the 3rd book in the Wolves of Mercy Falls series, which obviously features wolves. I'm really enjoying this series, and I have really been looking forward to reading book 3, and I just haven't been able to fit it into a month since I read book 2 in April. That's a lie, it was really only May that I couldn't fit it into, so yeah, really looking forward to reading this one. Next is Friends, Read a Book with a charismatic main character, and I think for this I'm going to go with My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I'm assuming that the main character in this is quite charismatic, and I'm definitely assuming that the antagonist in this is very charismatic. So My Dark Vanessa is a psychological thriller which is about a 17-year-old girl, I think she's 17, who enters into a relationship with one of her teachers, and she maintains that, you know, they're in love, there's nothing wrong with it, and then years later we see her looking back on it and realising that it was severely fucked up and what happened was not okay. Hello, just had a quick battery and probably angle change, and my cat is now here, so enjoy that. This is being described as a Lolita for the modern age, like a Lolita for the Me Too age, and I'm really looking forward to it. Lolita is actually one of my favourite books. I know it's awful, I know it's terrible, but it's a really beautifully written book, so I'm very interested to see how I would compare My Dark Vanessa to that. Next up is Comprehend Languages, Read a Translated Work, and I still would like to read Spark Joy by Marie Kondo. I still haven't finished The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying, which I really need to, but I would like to read Spark Joy, so maybe I will do that. After I read most of The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying, I was really motivated to clear out. I knew going into it all of the kind of theory behind it, but still actually reading it and getting the little anecdotes from people didn't really motivate me. I don't know, motivate is a weird word. I wasn't like, yes, I'm going to KonMari my house and throw out everything exactly the way she says, but I did just kind of, it put me in the mood to like throw stuff out and clean up and tidy up, and it would be really nice if I could get back into that mood. So I think I might read Spark Joy for this, which obviously is translated from Japanese. And then lastly we have Detect Magic, Read Any Fantasy Book. For this I think I'm gonna read Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. I have heard Becca talk about this so many times and I still actually couldn't tell you what it's about. I just know that it's a dark fae romance, and yes, I'm here for that. I finally caved, and during lockdown I bought the ebook, so I'm very, very excited to read that, and I think that some like angsty dark romance is going to be a nice break from some of the like more serious stuff that I'm reading. I generally read fantasy romance very quickly, so I'm hoping that between this and Forever they'll be nice like bite-sized books. Not bite-sized because they're, you know, proper-sized books, but books that I can consume quite quickly in amongst all of the other stuff that I have to read. So moving on to the Make Your Myth Taker readathon. As I mentioned, I am a bard, but not just any bard. I'm currently working as the jester in a royal court. As such, I will need to read a fun middle grade. For this I think I'm going to go with Alistair Grimm's Auditorium, which was on my Believeathon TBR in May, but I didn't quite get to. I don't 100% remember what this is about. I think it was about an orphan. Well, it was about an orphan. I think his name was Grub, maybe, and he escapes his current lot in life in the luggage of this eccentric inventor called Alistair Grimm and goes off to his auditorium. There he gets taken in by Alistair Grimm and his merry gang. They pretty much adopt him, and for the first time in his life he feels like he has a family. And then there's like a dark evil prince that comes along and threatens everything that he now holds dear, and he has to fight. That's pretty much how I remember it being. Next I need to read a book with royal colours on the cover, red, purple or gold. As you can see, I did not plan this TBR. I mean, I did. So let me just break this up with a little story time. I have actually already filmed my TBR for this, but I had used Alistair Grimm's Odd Aquaticum, which is the sequel to Alistair Grimm's Auditorium. It's the sequel, and I'd put that on my TBR, so I had decided to refilm my TBR. This morning I woke up and I was like, let me just not even bother with refilming it, let me just read the first Alistair Grimm book quickly at the beginning of the month, and then I'll carry on with my TBR as I had planned. However, when I went to look yesterday, bearing in mind I've filmed this TBR over a week ago and I've sat with the footage since then knowing that I needed to refilm it, yesterday I eventually caved and deleted the footage, and then today decided I could actually still use the footage, so love that for me. I have already filmed this and had already planned out my TBR, but hadn't actually like put the stuff together. Now I don't remember what I'd planned for my TBR, so it is just kind of a fresh new take on it. You know what? To mark this being the first month of my D&D inspired TBR, I think I'm gonna go with Timeless by R.A. Salvatore. This is a Drizzt novel. Drizzt is, I'd say, probably one of the most famous D&D characters. There are board games about him, there are books written about him. He's like pretty iconic. I think this is about book 13, but I'm just assuming I can pick it up anyway. Oh yeah, this is a new trilogy. This is the first book in a new trilogy about Drizzt. I don't know what this is about. I got it about 2 years ago and I have not really looked at the synopsis since then, but it has purple and this could be considered gold, so gonna try read this one. Next I have to read a book about books, and for this I'm going to read the sequel to Tilly and the Book Wanderers, which is Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales. I don't really know what it's about. I'm assuming that there are fairy tale characters who are lost and Tilly has to help find them. But I can't tell you what the first book was about. So we have our main character Tilly, who discovers that she is a book wanderer, which means that she can bring fictional characters out of books and she can also travel into books. And it's amazing and wonderful and whimsical and magical and so funny, and highly recommend it. And I'm gonna read the sequel because it's about books. So I've been the court jester for a little while now. I've been a bard my whole life. I've been playing musical instruments and singing pretty much since I could walk and talk. But over the course of my life, I've noticed some strange things. The stories that I make up and the songs that I sing often seem to come true. Could it be that maybe I'm destined to be an oracle? I think I might be. So I'm going to switch over to the oracle path and read a 5-star prediction. So luckily I already have one of these on my TBR and I can double up, and I'm going to read Where I'm Calling From by Raymond Carver because this was in the video that I predicted 5-star reads in. Alistair Grimm I think also actually was a 5-star prediction for me, but that was a long time ago and I'm already reading it for the Myth Take readathon, so I can't use it for that prompt as well. But yeah, Where I'm Calling From is going to be my 5-star prediction for that, and then hopefully I will have become an oracle. When I come into my full godly powers as an oracle, I remember something very important about my past. It's like I've been blind my whole life and a blindfold has just been ripped off, and I realised that the reason for my musical prowess and now for my oracle abilities come from me being a child of Apollo. So I'm gonna head on down to Camp Half-Blood and take part in the Olympic Games over there. In order to honour my godly father Apollo, I need to complete 5 mandatory prompts. The first is music to my ears, listen to an audiobook. I might double up here and use the Forever audiobook. I really enjoy the Wolves of Mercy Falls audiobooks, so I might listen to this on audio and then complete both of those prompts. Healing, read a book that you know will make you happy. Again, here I can double up because I know that Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales is going to make me happy. The first book just made me smile and laugh so much, so I'm sure that the second book will be no different. Doubling up again with my third prompt because as a god of prophecy, Apollo can often predict the future, and I need to read a book that I think will be a 5-star read, so I've got my 2 options for this. I've got Where I'm Calling From and I've also got Alistair Grimm. Next is to read a book that starts with the letter A. Wait, I already have this one anyway. I can read Alistair Grimm's Auditorium for this. And lastly, the twin archers Artemis and Apollo look out for each other. Complete a prompt that honours Artemis. So I think that the Artemis challenge I'm going to go with is read a book while the moon is up, because for that I don't actually have to add a book to my TBR. I can just choose one of the books and read that only at night, which shouldn't be too challenging. I think so far I need to read 8 books. It was 5 for my TBR game and 3 for Myth Taker, because one of them I could double up on, and then all of my Olympic Games ones I've managed to double up on so far. Because in addition to the mandatory challenges, there are some optional challenges that I can do as a child of Apollo. These are advanced challenges, and while I'm not putting any pressure on myself to complete these, it would be nice if I could do these as well. So I think for these, because they are advanced challenges, they're supposed to be challenging, I am going to really try to not double up on these, and if I achieve these I want them to be actual extra books that I have to read. The first one is relatively simple. It's archery, and that is to read a book that is under 200 pages, so at least this one won't take me too long. For this I think I'm going to go with Alfred Hitchcock Presents Stories They Wouldn't Let Me Put on TV Part 2. I don't remember if I read this or not. This is basically a bunch of short stories by Alfred Hitchcock. He used to have a show, I think, called Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which was like short, scary stories, I think. Could be wrong, it was definitely before my time, but I love Hitchcock, think he's amazing, and I think I'll really enjoy reading some of his stories. Next is Capture the Flag, which is to read one of your most anticipated books, and for this I think I'm going to go with Love, Frankie by Jacqueline Wilson. I love Jacqueline Wilson, have loved her since I was a child, and was super excited when I found out that this one was coming out. This is about a young girl, she has a best friend, they've been best friends since childhood, and everyone assumes, best male friend I should say, everyone assumes that they're going to end up together, and then she starts falling for a girl in her class and suddenly questions everything that she's ever known about herself. Next is The Climbing Wall, which is to read the next book in a series, and oh boy, I know I'm definitely not going to complete this one, but let's just put The Dragon Reborn in as my answer for this, because that's the next book in the Wheel of Time series and I really need to read it, okay? I do. I know I'm not going to finish it this month, there's no way, not with everything else I have to read, but I got to try. Lastly is Pegasus Riding, which is a book that has been published in the last 5 years, and for that I might go with The Sisters Grimm by Mena von Prague. I have started this, but I feel like because it's an additional challenge, if I don't read the whole book this month, it's maybe not the end of the world. Like, if I finish it this month, it's okay, maybe. If any of the hosts are watching this and you want to clarify that for me, please do. So there we have my super ambitious June TBR of 8 to 12 books. Bearing in mind I read 5 books in the month of May, so pray for me. That is all I've got for you guys today. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of any of the books that I'm planning to read, if you've read any of them. Also, if you're planning on doing either of these readathons, let me know in the comments what path you're taking, what books you're reading, link me to your TBRs, I'd love to go watch them. Thank you for watching this. If you did enjoy it, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to keep up with me on any other social media, you can find links to my Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads and Facebook in the description. But that's all from me today, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye!
My life is grounded in a